This is episode 280 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Joe Killinger. Over 30 years, Joe has been an agent, investor, syndicator, founder, and operator of several companies, as well as operator of several properties that he has invested in. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I like to talk to people who have their hands in all parts of the business like myself. What was your first part of the business that you started in?
Real estate auctions is where I got started in the early 90s. And it's kind of a funny story. I was at an auction company, a big auction company here in Los Angeles. Actually, it was the biggest. I ended up getting hired as an on-site marketing person, and that was per project. So we were auctioning off development deals around Koreatown and downtown LA. And I'd get brought in for 2 weeks, and we'd show the properties, and then we'd sell them. I'd be out of work for a week or two, then we get another project. And we were just selling stuff right and left. And I ended up going into the office. They brought me in-house and was loving it. And my business partner, George Pino, he's the CEO of Commercial Brokers International, a brokerage company. He was in the closing department. Well, cut to a couple years down the road, the company did a public offering, an IPO. And during that process, they got caught fudging some numbers. So they got noticed, okay, you need to downsize. Your numbers were not exactly correct. And so they laid a bunch of people off. And I got moved into the closing department. And George at the time was number 3 on the totem pole. He became number 1. And then a couple months later, George ended up laying me off. Now, here's the danger of the secretarial pool. So I knew, and actually right before Christmas, George was supposed to lay me off right before Christmas. And he chose not to do it. He put his own job on the line and just said, no, I'm not laying somebody off before they go home for Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I got back, secretarial pool. A couple of them had called me and say, hey, you're going to get laid off this week, just to give you a heads up.
Yeah.
And so I go in early in the morning, and George comes in right after I do. And I said, I understand you got something to tell me today. He goes, yeah, let's get a coffee. Yeah. So we sat and talked for probably a couple hours, probably. And then I ended up packing my stuff up and leave. But thank God for that secretarial pool giving me a heads up. I quickly made some calls and found out there was a startup auction company here in Los Angeles. And so I shot my resume over there. I had an interview with them a couple of days later, and strictly commission. Now it was all strict. Yeah. All that was strictly going from salary to strictly commission. And so I got started over there and just cold calling all day. And then I got the people from the secretarial pool called me and said, hey, George is going to get laid off probably by the end of the week. So just to give you a heads up. And so I know what they were kind of asking. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, George calls and goes, hey, I got laid off. What jobs are out there?
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't know. I'll tell you where I'm at. And we just decided right then on that first call, listen, if you want to come over here and work with me, it was called the Sands Group. I said, we'll just split everything 50-50. And he came over, and we there was no internet really at the time. You weren't using it for marketing. It was just cold calling. Calling. And there was really, you had to buy the list, of course, And so we just cold called. We became the number 2 auction company in the Western region within the first 18 months. We landed some really nice clients. People would call and say, well, you guys don't have any experience. We go, exactly. That's the point. You're our only client. So let's get going. And a small development gave you a shot. And then this lady, Ellie Evans at Freddie Mac years ago, she goes, okay, hot shot, let's give you a try. And, I bought her. I called her every day almost. And she gave us a shot, and we just took off after that.
And when you were looking at all these foreclosures and seeing all the deals, is that what got you going for investing? You're just sitting in front of all these deals that are coming in front of you. Like, some of these should be mine.
Yeah, but I couldn't buy them my own.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have to go to like someone doing the same thing.
Yeah, I did.
So you can get those. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I thought I was being really smart. So I went to one of our competitors at the time. They're no longer around either. But I walked in, and I'd always kind of been the face of the Sands Group. And so I walked in, and I'm standing right next to my business partner and his wife. And they walked up to me and they go, "Aren't you Joe Killinger?" And I go, "Yeah." And they freaking escorted me backward out the door. My partner sitting right there with his wife, backward out the door, said, "You're out of here." I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All I want to do is buy property. So I got another company that I called and I said, "Listen, I just want to come buy properties. I don't care what you're doing. We're in the same business. There's plenty of business for everybody." And so they let me come in and we bought a few properties, and it was interesting. But yes, that's what really got my interest in investing, because I saw what people were buying them for, but I also saw how informed they were.
Yeah.
These guys, they took the time to learn the market. The people that really capitalized on it knew everything about the marketplace. They knew everything about the properties. And, one thing that George and I did right, and, back then, as you can remember, Jonathan, there wasn't a lot of mentoring that was happening.
Yeah.
But George and I just got in a car at least one day a week. We drove Southern California. So if we went on a meeting, we got to do a pitch. We would tell you, "Oh yeah, we've been to that property. This is what's going on there." And our competition wasn't doing that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's what really opened the door for us, was that getting boots on the ground.
Well, across your career in commercial real estate, what's been your focus or your favorite asset class? Because there's so many in developing now with self-storage, industrial, all of these things. What's the target for you? What do you like the most?
Right now, so I was doing a lot of multifamily, and then we'd sold our stuff in LA, and then we're doing LA in Dallas, and this guy came to us and just said, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing in this area." Um, we were already running out of kids in the program, because one thing, here's a mistake we made with that program, is since nobody moved anymore, we eventually ran out of kids.
Oh yeah,
because they all grew up and went on to higher education, and the foundation gave them scholarships to get on to higher education, or we helped them find jobs and all that.
Yeah.
And so we were out of kids, and so we were going to redevelop this property. It was way underdone. It had like almost an acre and a half and 70 units. And so demo that, you could have doubled almost the number of units. And so we planned on that. And the guy came in and just said, "Listen, I want to be in that area." And we just told him it's not for sale. We're going to develop it. He goes, "Well, if you had a number, what would that number be?" We told him. He goes, "Okay, take it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So we thought, well, this guy's kind of crazy. It turns out he was the syndicator as well as the contractor. So he was getting all his money up front.
Yeah.
He didn't care about the investors. I'm sure that property went back to the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, and certainly with your time in the business, and same for me, it's like there's plenty of newer people to the business who can help you. But it's like when you want to know about what's happened in real estate and all the cycles, you need to talk to people who've been through the cycles. And I feel like everything looks shiny for a while now. Everybody think, "Oh, it's so tough with rates." We grew up at a time when, this was like if you could get 7%, it's the best day of your life. So we have the long-term vision here.
Yeah, 18% was what I remember. I remember 18%.
It's crazy.
But John, I want to point one thing out.
Yeah.
If you're getting into commercial real estate, and before you decide to go to a brokerage, I want people that are newer to really think about, before you jump and sign with a company, do the due diligence on the company. Find out, do they offer mentoring?
Yeah.
Do they offer training? Will they give you leads? What do their splits look like? Because so many young people just want to get started. They go to the first company, and then there's no training. There's no mentoring, and then they burn out. And the turnover in the first 5 years is 87%.
Yeah.
We want to bring that down, and we can do that with training and mentoring and giving the right guidance. And so it's really important that somebody's new that's watching this is thinking about commercial real estate brokerage. Make sure you do the due. I've written blogs about it on the website, videos. Actually, I'm doing a video next week. It'll be out next week on it. Just really make sure you do the due diligence, because when you start with a brokerage firm, you're going to give it the time and effort. And it just kills me that these brokerages don't put more time into training, because you put all this effort into bringing somebody on, and then you don't train them.
Yeah.
Their success rate just drops through the floor. You're sitting there spending time on them because you're paying for all this other stuff that costs a brokerage. So you've tied their hands to get them started. And so that's just something our industry, I think we need to fix. And
Absolutely.
So just be aware of the company you choose.